All right, guys, this week you are not going to want to miss this episode regarding the spring bear hunt in the state of Washington. There exists a threat, from anti-hunting groups to politicians trying to give our land away, and we won't stand for it. Those vast western landscapes provide the space for our wildlife to thrive and a place for hunters and anglers to fuel the fire that sparks their soul. In this show, we share our love of hunting, fishing, and conservation. Here, we provide the foundation to meet these threats through passion and the grit of the American outdoorsman. Welcome to the Western Huntsman Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of the Western Huntsman Podcast. This is Jim Huntsman, the host, and I'm coming at you from the Broken Tine studio right here in Clark Fork, Idaho. And we've got a hell of an episode lined up for you today. We are going to be talking all about the cancellation of the spring bear hunt in the state of Washington. And I've got somebody on. I've got to give a shout out to my buddy Mike Hers, who is killing all the mule deer down in Utah. But I've got to give a shout out to Mike. He's the one that kind of pointed me in the direction of this guest. And this is going to be a conversation that, one of the core foundational reasons why we started this show was to talk about this stuff and the anti-hunting movement and places like the Center for Biological Diversity and the Humane Society of the United States and all these things and what's happening now. If you guys are not up to speed with this, and I encourage you to pay attention, because some of you may be like rolling your eyes and, oh, well, that's a Washington problem. That's not my problem because I live in Idaho or I live in Montana or Texas or somewhere else. But guys, I am like begging and pleading with you to pay attention to this kind of stuff, because this anti-hunting, whether it's through legislation or a commission vote or, whatever the influence is, it is like a cancer, and it spreads, and it starts somewhere small, and it's going to spread throughout the rest of the country. So if you don't think it's an applicable episode to you, you're wrong. I don't care if you're a hunter in Alaska or an alligator hunter in Florida. It doesn't matter, because this is all of our problem. This is all of our issue, and we've got to pay attention. So for those of you, let me get back to this. For those of you that don't know, what's happened in the state of Washington is on November 19th, the Washington Fish and Game Commission got together. I'm highly confused with, and today somebody's going to help me clarify this, I'm hoping, but highly confused with how this works. But they had 8 votes, 4 for and 4 against, canceling the spring bear hunt. This is not like an outright bear hunting ban, but it's canceling the season for the year 2022. And it was all brought on by emotion and all sorts of other stuff that we're going to talk about today. So my guest today, from my good buddy Mike Hers, who referred me over here, is a guy named Douglas Boze. Douglas is an author, and he's a big-time bear hunter, and I'm actually really excited to talk to him about his book that I ordered. I think, actually, it's in the mailbox today. I got to go down and check it. But he wrote the book, The Ultimate Guide to Black Bear Hunting, and he is going to be our subject matter expert, if you will. Douglas, welcome to the show, brother. I appreciate you coming on.
Well, thank you, sir. That's a heck of an introduction. I appreciate the invite.
Yeah, man. I'm glad we hooked up, dude, because so we have a Facebook group that is called Hunting the West, the Western Huntsman, where it's a small, intimate group of hunters. And the only real reason why I even like to get on Facebook anymore, but it's on there. And I posed the question in the group: does anybody, know of somebody in Washington, whether they're, somebody heavily involved with the bear hunting, or they're a wildlife biologist, or, some capacity like that. And your name came up twice. And so it's going to be an interesting discussion, man. Kind of tell me a little bit about your background, because you and I have never met. We talked for 2 minutes before I started recording.
Yeah, pretty much. And just to reiterate what we had talked about before we started recording was, I was like, hey, I love Idaho and whatnot. And you said, yeah, we get a lot of people moving in from California and other liberal states. And so like you were saying at the beginning, if you don't think it's an issue for Idaho now, it's going to be. Those people coming into those states are going to try to change things for you Idahoans.
We've already seen it too, man. I mean, we've already seen some of the crap of out of state influences that come in and they want to escape the bad parts of where they're coming from, and then they want to come here and enjoy the benefits of the good parts about here, and then bring some of the bad parts with them. It's ludicrous.
It is. It's insanity.
Yeah.
I remember, just real quick, I remember growing up in Washington, and we used to have bumper stickers on the back of the cars that said, "Welcome to Washington, now go back to California." Now, I'm not dissing Californians, because I know there's a lot of conservative Californians in Northern California, but the fact of the matter is like, you know, the influx of population into those conservative states, most of those, not all, but most of those people coming in are from liberal states trying to change things, and trying to escape the taxes, and then trying to vote out what you guys have prospered with.
Yeah, and do away with the liberties and freedoms that we enjoy in these places. And, you know, it's interesting you mentioned that. Like, California is a legitimate bear hunting state. I know a lot of guys down there that are, they're successful every year, or they put a lot into their hunting seasons. And when we're talking about how this stuff spreads, you know, we had this issue last winter, and all of a sudden this Senator Wiener in San Francisco introduced a complete bear hunting ban in the state of California. I almost said Idaho there. And I remember warning people there, like if you guys in Washington and Oregon think you're safe from this because this is just wackiness coming out of San Francisco, California, you know, that's how it spreads. And they feed off of each other. You know, they see, okay, well, San Francisco, this senator in California has introduced this bill. And why can't we do it here? And the funny part is, and I'm already getting worked up. I can already tell. I'm trying to slow down here.
That's all right.
The way that there's one common denominator, but between both that bill that was introduced that failed in California, and this commission vote in Washington, and that is the Humane Society of the United States. And so we're going to talk about all this stuff. We're going to dive into this, but first I again, going back to you, Douglas. Can you give us a snapshot of your background and tell us a little bit about you? And I really want to talk about your book too, man.
Yeah. So sorry, I got off on a different road there real quick. But
that's what we do, man.
So just about me, I grew up hunting. I started at the age of 12 when I could legally hunt. I was out before that, but I didn't start hunting until 12. I'm 45 now, so I've got some seasons under my belt. I've hunted Washington. I've hunted Idaho. I had wolf tags in my pocket for Idaho. I had a couple of my sights. I didn't get to pull the trigger. They were too far away, but, man, I want to get back there for some wolves.
Yeah, come on over, man. Come and see me.
I've hunted Alaska for bear and stuff, and so I'm a hunter. I'm conservative leaning. And I've written a couple books. In all honesty, I'm nothing special. I'm a published author. I've done a couple of articles for magazines, but I'm just an average Joe who has a passion for bear hunting. I didn't get into bear hunting until my late 20s, and I wrote some books after that. Basically, the books came about with, in the state of Washington, hounds and baiting are illegal for hunting bear. Mm-hmm. And so there was a lot of questions online about, hey, how can I hunt bear without the use of bait or hounds? And so as a black bear hunter finding some success, I thought, well, I'm just going to type a little report online, and then I publish that on an online forum. And then that got a lot of hits. And I thought, well, I'll just expand this into a self-published kind of little report, which is what I did. And so that book was called No Bait, Just Bears. And then from there, I kind of shopped that around to just different publishers. And my publisher in New York, Skyhorse Publishing, they said, hey, well, obviously we can't print this, but, if you want to add a bunch of stuff to it, rebrand some things, blah, 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 we can do that. And so, well, sure, so I signed a contract with them. And then that's when I wrote The Ultimate Guide to Black Bear Hunting, which involves baiting and predator calling and spawn stock and pretty much everything you need.
That's sweet, man. I'm so excited about it. I'm getting it soon. So I just want to clarify. Going back, so you kind of wrote this series of reports and articles and stuff and combined them, and they said, well, that's great, but it's not like a book, so you went back and wrote the Ultimate Guide to Black Bear Hunting and added all that stuff in there? Is that how that went down?
So No Bait Just Bears, that was self-published. So you can go online and there's self-publishing companies that you can submit the text to, and then they create a book and an ISBN number and all the stuff that you need to actually publish a book. And so that's how that came around. But then when I was just passing it around to different publishers, Skyhorse took a look at it and was like, yeah, we like it, but since it's already been published, we can't really publish this. We need, more content. More content. Obviously. Gotcha. Yeah. And so that's what happened. So, I went from, I think No Bait Just Bears was like maybe 100 pages to 256 for the Ultimate Guide. And it's just a lot more refined and whatnot. So, yeah.
And how long has that book been out there?
It was published in September of 2016.
The Ultimate Guide?
Yes, sir.
Oh, gotcha. And is there, I'm just like, this is my curious side, is there a lot of call for that kind of book out there? I mean, I didn't even know about it until Mike kind of turned me on to you. And so, yeah, man, I just am way excited. I love books like this. Is there a lot of demand for it? Sorry, my other line was ringing there. That's the only problem with recording over the phone.
No, that's okay. Well, it's a niche topic. So, there's a lot more deer hunters and elk hunters than there are bear hunters. Yeah. But I think as far as the bear hunting community goes, I think for that, yes, there is a demand for it. It's been a #1 bestseller for bear hunting books on Amazon. It's got the highest amount of ratings. It has the highest ratings. It's been well received. So yeah, I mean, I think as far as the hunting community goes, especially bear hunters, yeah, there is a demand for it. And onset hunters too, people who want to expand, people who like yourself, maybe have never hunted bear, or have for a couple seasons, and they want to learn more and maybe save some time, gas, money, and effort.
Sure. Yeah.
It was like probably 10 years of bear hunting before I published that book. And so there's a lot of pictures and gas and stories and stuff that I had to experience to pass that along to newer hunters or to, lesser experienced hunters. And even some of those who, maybe some of those people who have baited bear, but have never predator called bear, because I'm a big predator caller. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of information about that. That's a huge passion of mine.
Okay. Yeah. Super excited about that, man. Because I do set bait barrels. In fact, I've been hunting one. It just closed on November 30th. Where I live, I've got some property here, and I had a black bear on the kind of back half of my property. I was trying to bait him in. The sucker hit my barrel one time and then never showed up again. So not sure where he went, but I'd love to learn how to call bears better, because calling is kind of my thing, man. I love calling for elk. I love calling deer in. I love all that. Coyote calling. Yeah. And I've tried it. With bears. But like I told you before we started recording, this was only my second season actively hunting bears. I've had bear tags in the past, and it was like, if I see one, whatever. But yeah, I'm way. It's weird how it grabbed a hold of me. I'm super passionate about it now, and I can't wait for spring bear. Can you, like in the book, does it talk about the difference between just behaviorally how bears behave in the spring versus in the fall?
It does. It talks more about kind of the food resources, because one thing when you're hunting bear, a common saying is find the food, find the bears.
Yeah, I've heard that.
But that's easier said than done, because it varies upon elevation, time of year, where you're at, region wise. So, the food sources are different in Eastern Washington than they are in Western Washington, and the same probably the spots in Idaho. And Oregon. But, so yeah, it does talk about that a little bit. And the different behaviors, like in the spring, bears come out of hibernation. They're hot. I talk about wanting to find them early in the spring if hide quality is important to you, because they're going to start rubbing their hands and their paws and their face and the sides, and they're going to start rubbing the hide off. So that's, a behavior that's important. In the fall, they're still searching for food, but they might be more, what's the word I'm looking for? They might be more into specific areas where there's only a little bit of amount of food left. It talks about a whole bunch of different stuff.
Okay, somebody posed a question to me not very long ago, and I'm like, I had to respond with, you know what? I don't know, because I don't. Do you have an opinion as to the quality of bear meat that comes off a spring bear versus a fall bear?
Okay, so I've killed 2 spring bear, because in this state it's a special draw, as we will discuss, or as some will already know. And I've killed several fall and late summer bears. I haven't noticed really a difference in the taste. The spring bears, when I started to skin them, they smelt like a normal animal when you cut them open. And I always check their stomachs, because I just want to see what they're eating. I think that tells me a lot about their behavior.
Oh, absolutely.
So I always check bear stomachs after I've cleaned them out. But the fall bears, lots of them, they smell just like a berry pie. Like right when you cut them open, it smells like jam.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I mean, there's pictures in the book too, where I split open the stomach and there's like, the blackberries aren't even chewed. It's just like you picked a bunch of blackberries and threw it in the bear's stomach.
Wow.
I've thought about I'd have to have a cracker or something, but put a little bit of that on a cracker and give it a shot. Like,
spread it out.
Yeah, it looks just like jam, smells just like jam. It's crazy.
Huh. Interesting.
But
cool.
I found the meat's tasty either way, spring or fall. I haven't had an issue.
It's pretty good either way. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Like you don't have a preference. Oh, I'd rather shoot a fall bear because they taste like this kind of thing.
No.
Okay. Well, let's switch gears here, man. Because this is going to be a tough subject, and I'm going to try to do it without losing my shit. I'm pretty bent out of shape about your Washington Fish and Game Commission. Can you walk us through, first of all, kind of the history of spring bear hunting or bear hunting in general in the state of Washington?
I can do some of it. So I'm far from an expert, but I'll tell you kind of what I know. So, in the early 90s, like 94, 96, baiting and hounds, and then leg hold traps also, that got voted by the people. That's outlawed. You can't hunt bear with bait or hounds. And
so that was not like a legislative or commission vote. That was a general populace kind of vote.
Yes, to my recollection, that was a general populace. Somebody got an initiative on there. So in this state, I think if you get like 100,000 signatures, you can get an initiative to get voted on.
Yep.
And that's what happened.
Okay.
And that was prior to me even hunting bear. So the only bear hunting I've really known in this state has been spotter stock, that type of stuff, predator calling.
Mm-hmm.
So fast forward to where we are now. We've had spring bear hunts for years and years and years and years. For the most part, the tags vary from year to year depending on the need. But for example, last year there was like 665 tags allotted. And this is a special draw. You have to put in like a permit, or like a lottery, just like you guys have to do in Idaho for certain things.
Sure.
So of that 665 allotted permits, 143 or 145 bear were killed.
Uh-huh.
Of that, one lactating sow was documented.
And that's important because one of the commissioners made a big stink about how the problem is we're trying to protect the female, the sows, and so that they can raise their cubs, so they don't get hurt.
Right.
Okay.
And so the other thing too is one of the commissioners brought up the high percentage of bears being taken. Well, if you're only taking 143 bears out of, and let's just say that the low conservative estimate for the bear population of Washington is 20,000 bears. That's like the low. The department is actually saying like 30,000 or more. So if it's the low 20 grand, you're still only taking a fraction of 1% during that spring bear hunt. So it's not detrimental whatsoever to the overall population sustainability, right?
Mm-hmm.
And really quick, I agree with you too. This got me pretty heated, and I'm glad it was like a week or more before I got on a podcast, because it would have been just F-bombs left and right. It wouldn't have been pretty. So I'm glad I've had time to cool down.
Well, this is the Western Huntsman, man. Feel free to drop an F-bomb here and there.
So anyway, where was it? So the spring bear hunt is a special draw. We have an over-the-counter fall hunt that ranges from August 1st till November 15th. And that has just recently changed, I think a year or two ago, to where it used to be you could get 2 bear on the west side of the mountains, or 1 bear on the west and 1 on the east of the mountains, but not 2 on the east, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah, that makes sense.
Now it is 2 bear statewide. So and it used to start August 15th on the east side of the mountains too. So it started 15 days later, and you used to only be able to get 1 bear on the east side. Now it's August 1st, 2 bear statewide.
Okay. And so go ahead.
So that has changed a little bit. With that, the general harvest increased a little bit. But again, it was within the sustainable parameters defined by the Department of Fish and Wildlife and the biologists, as far as the population can handle it, that it's not an issue.
Yeah, and I mean, that's always the case, right? I think that a lot of people, especially people that are not hunters, and especially even more so, are the anti-hunters. They act like these species and certain populations, based on whatever regional area they're concerned about, they always downplay the health of the population. And there's groups here in Idaho that talk about how our wolf population is in danger. We need to stop these vicious hunters from going after the wolves. And what they don't understand, well, they do understand. It's just a propaganda machine. But when you're talking about these kind of species, like, people don't realize how many bears are on the landscape. There's a lot. I was telling my wife, I don't know if you know this. My wife and I, we live on like this homestead thing, and it's a homestead because we haven't built a house yet. We're living in a fifth wheel, and we've got wall tents and all sorts of stuff set up here, and we're basically living off grid for a while until our house gets built, which is looking like it's further away than we thought, because all the influx of people that have escaped Seattle and California coming to Idaho have all our builders locked out. So that's irritating. But so, by the way, if anybody listening knows a good builder in North Idaho, hit me up, jim@thewesternhuntsman.com. Had to throw that out there.
Right.
Anyways, when we're sitting kind of in like the home building spot, and we have like this campfire thing set up, and you can look across the valley, and then this big mountain goes up. And it's the very north end of the Coeur d'Alene National Forest, the mighty Coeur d'Alenes, and it's a huge national forest area. And this mountain, what I was telling my wife, like, if you could all of a sudden lift up all those trees and expose what's alive on those mountains, I think you would be blown away with how many black bears would be there. Because there's a ton. We have a ton of bears, and I know Washington is a great bear state, and I know this because we have a huge audience base in Washington, and a lot of them are bear hunters, and they send them to me, and I follow all this stuff. So 20,000 bears, when you're talking about 143 of them, was it, you said, were harvested in the last spring hunt?
Yeah.
That's less than half of 1%, right?
Yeah.
And I'm no scientist or mathematician, but that doesn't even make a dent on the very healthy population of black bears in the state of Idaho. And I think that it's important that foundationally we bring that up in this episode, so that people understand that it is not a situation where we need to save the black bears in Washington. That's just not the case. Do you have anything to add to that?
If that was the case, I'd be the first one to stand up and hand my bear tag in.
Me too. Yeah, for sure.
I would, if they said, hey, our population is in dire straits, we have got to cut it off completely for 5 years, I would campaign for it. I'd be like, look, our population can't sustain it, there's problems, let's cut it back. But that's not the case. I constantly hear follow the science, as we've had shoved down our throats for the last 2 years in regards to COVID.
Yeah, follow the
and when the science is presented by the Department of Fish and Wildlife and their biologists, they don't want to follow the science. The science doesn't fit their narrative. It doesn't come from the Humane Society.
Yeah, it never does. Science does, and let's talk about that. That's a good way for me to bring this up. I don't know, Douglas, if there's a group out there that makes my blood boil more than the Humane Society of the United States. And Kitty Block, the CEO, or the president CEO, she's like public enemy number one. I want to pull this, if I could find it here, because, which, by the way, I found the oddest letter to Governor Inslee from the Center of Biological Diversity that was addressed. Oh, that's not the article. Talking about your wolf situation, and that's, I think, what bothers me a lot is, why is it that the Center for Biological Diversity and the Humane Society of the United States has enough influence to get a governor to write a letter to the director of the Fish and Game to talk about the wolf management plan that is in place that, currently in the state of Washington, you guys can't even hunt wolves?
No, we can't, which is ridiculous because most hunters know.
It's super ridiculous. They're everywhere over there.
Most hunters know, who are out in the field, they realize that there's tons of wolves all over the place. They're going completely unmanaged. They're decimating our elk herd in the Blues. Mm-hmm. And how the Humane Society can get the governor's ears, because he's an environmental nut in the first place, and so of course he's going to want to listen to those people. Then, real quick, when we were talking in the beginning, Idaho, Oregon, whoever, as hunters, well, that doesn't concern my state. The Humane Society or other PETA, other type of animal rights groups, they don't care what state it's in. They care about the topic itself. And we as hunters need to start realizing it's the topic of hunting or fishing, and we need to be concerned with that, not worry about the region that it's being taken away from.
We need to get rid of, in our minds, we need to get rid of the state lines.
Right.
Just in our minds, we've got to eliminate the state lines and consider ourselves as hunters, right? Because here's how they word it. The Humane Society is not some fact-based, do-gooder of all things animals. These people are propaganda machines that will spew whatever emotional bullshit that they can come up with to get people to donate to them. This is their game. It's a cottage industry. And this is how they go. And like I said before, Kitty Block is like public enemy number one. This lady is a former employee of PETA, which anybody associated with PETA in my book has no credibility. That group they should be considered terrorists, in my opinion.
They're nuts.
They're freaking nuts. And so the Humane Society of the United States, they bring Kitty Block on as the president and CEO after that last dude, I can't remember, Wayne or something, was accused of sexual harassment or something like that. So they bring her on, and she's all over the place. She does nothing different than he did in terms of how they spend their money. I mean, they pay her somewhere in the neighborhood of, just as a base salary, $720,000 for a nonprofit president and CEO. So all this money that's getting donated by these people that they're pulling the wool over, a lot of that goes to her salary. Okay, she wrote this little blog, and I want to get your reaction on this. From the humanesociety.org, it's on their blog site, regarding the Washington spring bear hunt, and the headline is "Victory. After public outcry, there will be no spring bear hunt in Washington." And I want people listening to this to pay attention to the wording that is used in this, because that will tell you everything you need to know about how this propaganda is spread and how people fall for it. So here it is. Today, the Washington Fish and Wildlife Commission voted to set aside the 2022 spring bear hunt. The 4-4 vote means that mother bears and their dependent cubs will be protected from trophy hunting at a time when they are most vulnerable. Bears need time to pack on weight and raise their newborn cubs after winter hibernation, rather than being chased down while hungry and lethargic and killed as trophies. So, Douglas, when I read something like that, I know there's people out there that don't know anything about hunting and wildlife management. They live in these big cities, and this is like, I sound like I'm at the risk of sounding like a broken record on this podcast, because these are the people that donate, and they've got the money, and they read stuff like this. And when they say, like, she goes on to talk about the commission prioritizes the public's humane values and the need to avoid cub orphaning over trophy hunting interests and the desire to acquire more heads, hides, claws for display and bragging rights. So I ask you, as somebody who's been a very successful bear hunter, when you go out, is the goal head, hides, and claws to display for bragging rights? Is that what your goal is?
No.
Would you consider yourself a trophy hunter?
No, I would not. There's so much to be said about that entire little blurb from the Humane Society. For one, why is it bad that a hunter who is legally bound to take the meat of a bear or a deer or an elk also takes the hide and takes the rack or takes the head or takes the claws or takes the bear hide itself? Yep. Why is that not respectful to the animal? Would you rather I waste it out in the woods?
This is what hunters and humans have done since the dawn of time.
Absolutely.
So the meat is a priority, right? That's a priority. But
the meat is a priority, but I will always take a hide. Even if the hide is rubbed really bad, I will still probably take that hide, because I will tan it and I will throw it on a chair, or I will take the claws and I will make a necklace out of it.
Yeah.
I will do something along those lines to where I'm using that resource.
And like you said, that honors the bear. That honors the animal. It'll be forever remembered versus rotting in the forest somewhere.
But right now in my man cave, I'm surrounded by, I've got a half mount, full mount, rugs, hides. None of this is in my man cave, so I can drag people in here and be like, hey, look what I did. Like, none of that is. It's here for me. I can be like, hey, I remember that spring bear hunt, or I was hunting with my brother, or man, that was a crappy pack out. All those things. It's remembrance for me, not for bragging rights. I could care less about bragging about anything.
Yeah, I'm the same way, man. Do you, just a side note, do you tan your own hides?
No, so I have a couple of taxidermists who are friends of mine too, and so I'll skin it out and then send it to them, and then they'll flesh it out and tan it. And so I've done deer hides and stuff like that, rabbit hides, blah blah blah, but with bear hides I just send it out usually.
Hey, where are you at in Washington?
I am in a little teeny town called Conway.
Is that south of Olympia?
It is north, so I'm about 80 miles south of the Canadian border.
Oh, you're way up there. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out where you're at. So, because I got a lot of friends over there, man, and a lot of them have been on this show.
Nice.
So,
and going back to that article real quick, I think a lot of non-hunters, not necessarily anti-hunters, but non-hunters, especially in the spring, they think that we wait outside of a bear den and then, shoot the mom and then club the cub and then make slippers out of it.
Yeah.
Which is farthest from the truth.
Because that's the picture that the Humane Society of the United States paints.
Right.
And you said it. You said it back when they did that, and they were checking out of the 143 bears, only one of them was actually lactating.
And who's to say she even had cubs, that cub wasn't already dead?
Yeah, very true. Very true. That cub was most likely gone already to a boar who got jealous and hungry, right? And so you think about that and the way, but that's not how they word that.
No.
She talks about other wild animals who depend on this keystone species in their forest ecosystem. There was another part in this, and I always hate, it takes forever to find.
When they were talking about being starving and lethargic.
Yeah, starving and lethargic. Yeah.
So I don't know of many animals that are very fat and happy out in the wild. Most of the time, animals are hungry, with the exception of maybe a bear sitting on top of a carcass that he just ate 60 pounds of elk meat on, or, a cougar or something.
Yeah.
For those day or two, they are fat and happy. But other than that, most animals in the wild are hungry. That's why they're hunting. That's why they're foraging. And I have never seen a lethargic bear as far as in the spring, like it's doped up. Again, I really think that they're trying to portray that as soon as they come out of the den, that's when we, shoot the bear or something to that effect.
They might be a little bit out of sorts for about 2 hours coming out of the den, but they make it sound like for like 2 months they're lethargic and starved and desperate. And yeah, I know what you're saying, man. It's way off. It's way off point.
So a great example of this is I was watching Meteor last night, and they have on this season on Netflix, Clay Newcomb and Steve are out hunting bear in Montana. It's a spring bear hunt. They get winded by a bear that is 800 yards away from where they are sitting. And that bear takes off, like off and running. That bear was neither lethargic or unaware of his surroundings. He was very aware, and he was off and running. So that's just a prime example of the false narrative that they are trying to push.
It's totally false. I've seen plenty of bears in the spring, and none of them are lethargic. I'm sorry.
Right.
It's just not. It's not even. It's not a relevant point. And if you read further into this article, the other point I wanted to hit on that, because you and I both know, and I hope the audience is kind of catching on to this, that the spring bears, when they come out, they're not helpless. The other point to this is, she writes, even if hunters tried to avoid killing mother bears with nursing cubs, it still happens far too frequently. By that, 1 out of 143 must be far too infrequent, or far too frequent.
Well, okay, let's play your game.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that spring bears are orphaning cubs. What can we do to stop that? We can bring back baiting, because when you bait, you have ample time to watch that bear and ensure that they are not a sow with cubs, but it's a mature boar.
But
of course, we're not going to go with that.
Yeah, that's a great point. They'll have an argument, but that's a great point.
Yeah.
And it's a great point because you've been there, you've done that, you've seen that. I've seen that. I had a mother coming in with 2 cubs, and actually it's kind of fun when I hitting my bait barrel. They're fun to watch. They're entertaining as all get out.
I love to watch.
I wanted to take one of those cubs home and show my girls, but they were just brand new. But anyway, she writes, after that, far too frequently, since a mother bear often keeps her cubs in a tree while venturing off to forage for food, and trophy hunters are notoriously bad at identifying the sex of a bear before the killing. There's 2 points I want to make with that and get your take. First of all, they purposely and maliciously put trophy in front of hunters. In every line on this entire, I read this entire article. It's long, so I'm not going to bore the audience with it. But they don't just say bear hunters. They don't just say hunters. They don't say sportsmen. They don't say outdoorsmen. They don't say any of that. They say trophy hunters. And I'm sorry, but trophy hunter is the way that they could demonize us without using factual information. It's like in politics, when somebody doesn't have an argument, what do they say? Oh, you're a racist. Oh, I can't argue with you, so you're a racist. It's like the same kind of thing. Like, you don't have a substantial argument, so what you want to do is call me names and call me a trophy hunter. 2, notoriously bad at identifying the sex of a bear before the killing. So you're saying a goddamn bird watcher is better at going in the forest and identifying the gender of a bear, as if it's only hunters that have this problem, and as if hunters are out there wiping out a bunch of sows with cubs. It's so far from reality. This stuff just gets under my skin so bad I can't even sleep at night, man.
I'm with you. My blood pressure was through the roof the last couple of weeks, and I'm still hot about it. I was texting people about it, and I was like, my soul is smoldering about this entire situation because it just reeks of bullshit.
Totally.
The reason they use that term trophy hunter is because it insinuates that the hunter is only taking the hide as a trophy, or the tusks, or whatever it might be. But we all know that is not the case, that it's illegal for us to waste the meat, that we are not trophy hunters just because we happen to take the hide along with it.
Yeah.
And so that's why they say that. And if she's saying that, hunters in Washington are needlessly killing sows. Well, our harvest take last year, I believe, or this most previous season, we've had the lowest sow take, which was under 10% of the entire 2,000 some odd bears that were taken through both seasons. We've had the lowest sow take in like a decade. Yeah. So hunters are getting nothing but better at judging that, and that's also part of the reason.
That's a lower number on top of that are actually sows with cubs. So sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah, and just because it's a sow, it's not a sow with cubs necessarily. It could be a dry sow. It could be a sow. Anything without
there's a million different things that could happen there.
Right.
The sow may not have been bred. The cubs are already dead. The bears are they're beyond the breeding age or whatever. There's a million different things that could happen there.
Right. But the point is that it's improving as well. Like, in my book, I talk about how to judge male bears from female bears. It is difficult, but it is possible. Again, if that's a problem, bring back hounds, bring back baiting, because that will ensure that that's not an issue.
Yeah.
But, they're not going to do that. But if they were really concerned about saving sows, they would bring back baiting and hounds, but they're not. That's not their point.
No, not at all. Not at all. And I know I'm very much stuck on this Humane Society article and what their influence has been, but they have created, for me, I personally am sick and tired of these groups like the Humane Society of the United States taking advantage of the funding dollars that they have to influence shit that is not even based in reality, and people falling for it. I am sick and tired of it, and I'm ready to do things that counter those measures. And I'm not sure exactly how that's all going to come together, but I'm working on a lot of ideas. These groups need to be put in check. They need to stop having so much influence on our state legislatures and our governors and our fish and game commissions. All of that, it needs to stop. It needs to stop because they're liars. This Kitty Block is a liar. She is a bold-faced liar. I watched a few videos with her earlier today just to kind of gear up for all this information. I didn't know how much involvement that the Humane Society had on this, and same with the Center for Biological Diversity. These groups are liars. They're full of like these pedophile leadership people that sexually harass everybody. That's why they're changing over leadership like toilet paper all the time. These people they are not real people. They're not like you and I. They're not just your average everyday American. These are fanatics that have fanatical viewpoints and are willing to do and say anything to get their fanatical view listened to. And so I don't want to spend too much time on that because I want to circle back to the commission, Douglas, and I apologize. I keep going on, taking us down different paths here.
No, it's okay. Like, I get it. And, you have to ask yourself, too, how many acres have the Humane Society conserved for any animal? None. Right? Zero. It's astounding that people keep falling for the heartstrings getting pulled while Sarah McLachlan song plays while you're watching a dog in a cage type of thing. It's silly.
Well, yeah, and they don't even help dogs and cats. The Humane Society of the United States, and we've talked about this on the show a million times, they don't help your local shelters. They don't save dogs and cats. They don't do any of that. Their dollars are spent lobbying for shit like this bear hunting ban that just took place in Washington.
Right.
Well, here we are, and it's already almost Christmas time, and you might be buying for that hunter in your life, or you're buying for yourself. Let's start with the westernhuntsman.com. If you go there and check out the gear tab, we've got all the Tacticam equipment. So if you know or you are interested in filming your hunt, jump on the westernhuntsman.com/gear and check out the Tacticam products, from the cameras to the reveal cell cams to everything else and all the attachments. It's all there. You can also check out the merchandise tab and get you a cool t-shirt or a coffee mug or something like that. And when you do make a purchase on the westernhuntsman.com, a portion of that proceed goes towards the fight against anti-hunters. Moving on, I want to talk to you about Scree Gear. Scree is extreme mountain gear built for the wild, It's a great company with great gear that's not going to break the bank. Some of my favorite Scree items are the Hard Scrabble pants. The Hard Scrabble vest is super versatile. Get your complete layering system to the Kodiak pants, and I love the Bridger glassing mitt, so keep your hands warm when you're out there glassing the mountain, doing your thing. So check it out at ScreeGear.com, and don't forget to use the promo code The Western Huntsman for 15% off and free shipping. Man, that's a great deal. Check it out, ScreeGear.com. Let's talk about Phelps Game Calls, the oldest sponsor on the Western Huntsman podcast. Phelps Game Calls has a full lineup of elk calls, predator calls, deer calls, duck calls, anything you need call-wise. Check it out at PhelpsGameCalls.com. Phelps is a true American story built from the blood and sweat and tears of Jason Phelps himself, from his garage to what it is now, one of the premier call companies out there on the market. I love these guys. It's a great company, great products, all backed by great warranties. Check it out at PhelpsGameCalls.com, and don't forget to use promo code Huntsman10 for 10% off. Last but not least, check out Hoffman Boots. Hoffman Boots are my go-to boot. They have been for many, many years. I love this company. They are built right here in North Idaho. And if you are in the market for a new set of mountain boots, hunting boots, you need to check them out. I love my Explorers. You can get the Explorers in the 8-inch, the 6-inch. You can get the Summits. That's another great boot. Personally, I haven't tried them, but I can attest that if they're anything as good as the Explorers, you will not be disappointed. So go to HoffmanBoots.com and check it out. Use promo code, all caps lock, by the way, Huntsman10. Huntsman10 for 10% off on your next Hoffman Boots purchase. Guys, that's it for sponsors. I sure appreciate you guys tuning into the show. Don't forget to check us out on Instagram and leave us a review if you wouldn't mind. It goes a long way to help the show. Let's get back into it. Here we go. So, in terms of the commission, and I want to start this conversation with, well, first of all, I have reached out to all the commissioners in the Washington Fish and Game Commission. None of them have responded, which is no big surprise. But none of them have responded, and it could just be like, I think it was you that told me, well, they might be inundated with a lot of different emails and voicemails, but I've left emails and voicemails for all of them because I want them to come on and explain themselves. But I was reading through on the Washington Department of Fish and Game on the website, going through the commission and kind of reading their biographies. Dude, where in the hell did you guys find these people? Like, these are not outdoorsmen. These are not hunters.
We didn't find them. They're appointed by the governor. So you see how convoluted this is? Mm-hmm. So when you have an environmental wacko governor who gets to appoint, like the Supreme Court, gets to appoint people who are in charge of policy that the Fish and Game Department have to follow, you can see how this can turn south real quick.
It's sickening, man. Like, people in Washington are getting the wool pulled over their eyes with this commission, and I'd love for one of them to come on and prove me wrong. So if any of them are listening, I want you to come on my show and talk about it. I think that when you make a decision like this, you owe it to the people of Washington to explain yourself, to explain this position and make people understand why you can make such a ludicrous, emotionally charged decision that affects people that you have nothing to do with. So I'm reading through this, Douglas, and like, a lot of them will make some remark in their little bio, how, we love spending time outdoors and fishing and camping and hunting and blah, blah, blah. Maybe they shot a pheasant when they were 13 years old or something, so they can call themselves a hunter. But when you compare that to other state wildlife commissions, fish and game commissioners, like our folks here in Washington, whether you agree with them or not, they are pretty much all big-time hunters. And they've come on my show. I've had the director of the Idaho Fish and Game on this show. I've had one of the commissioners on this show. And they come on and they talk about their decisions. And they are hunters. They are out there in the field. Like, they're specific. I'm a big-time September archery elk hunter, or I'm a big-time bear hunter. But not the case with the Washington folks. Like these are not people that should be on a fish and game commission, in my opinion. These are not the right people to represent the wildlife in the state of Washington, because the wildlife needs hunters. Hunters are what make the wildlife productive on the landscape, not PETA, not Humane Society of the United States, not Center for Biological Diversity. It's hunters that have recovered our species throughout North America and made the abundance of wild game that we experience today. How did these people end up there, man? It blows my mind.
Well, elections have consequences. And it blows my mind how Washington, I've watched this beautiful state of mine for the last 45 years of my life just go downhill, not just wildlife wise, but crime,
politics,
drug use.
Yeah.
I mean, just everything. And it's just plummeted. And I don't understand why people keep voting the same way. It blows my mind. And I don't get it. And you're right. I've emailed 4 of the no votes on the commission. 1 got back to me, Commissioner Smith, Lorna Smith, and she fully admitted she has never hunted bear and never will. And her wording for her reasoning behind why she chose to vote no is very similar, coincidentally, to the article from the Humane Society and a couple other anti-hunting groups where she claimed that bear were starving, lethargic, and less able to avoid dangers during this time.
Yeah, so she's the one that you've referenced a few times, right? Where it's more this. I don't think it's ethically right to hunt spring bear because they're so lethargic and blah blah blah.
And that was the underpinning, quote unquote, of her reasoning of her vote. Yeah. So if you have a commissioner who already thinks that spring bear hunting is unethical in the first place, as the core of her belief, what science is going to change that, regardless of whatever science it is? She already believes that it's unethical to hunt spring bear, period.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And by that, she has bias and she should be removed from the commission immediately. She has been appointed. She has not been confirmed. So what happens is that the governor appoints these people and then the legislature confirm them.
Yep.
Her, Kuntz, and one other who was a yes vote is not confirmed as of yet. So my goal is to make sure that Commissioner Smith is not confirmed and she is removed from the commission and replaced with somebody who at least doesn't have a pre-existing bias against hunting in the first place.
It's so important. That is so important. So whatever we can do from my standpoint, man, if you can, if you have suggestions as to how my show can help get that to that point, because this Lorna Smith, let's see, she's a retired executive director for the Western Wildlife Outreach. There's a lot in just her bio on the actual website that suggests she is just an anti-hunting individual. And that's okay. Personally, I don't have any problem with somebody being an anti-hunter as long as they don't try to force those beliefs on me. Right? And that's where the line, and that's where, I always hate you've talked about, you're conservative and there's not a lot of conservatives and, in the state of Washington or whatever. I always hate to bring politics into this because hunting bears should not be a political issue. Whether you're liberal or conservative, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat or an independent or a libertarian, hunting should not be a political issue. But what happens is we've got this one political party that seems to think that their beliefs are the only beliefs that matter. And so everybody else has to follow along or you're going to get canceled or you're going to get, banned or what you do is going to get banned or you're going to, what is with that mentality? Like this is the land of the free. This is united. Last time I checked, we were a nation of free people. And so to come on and bring this ideology where you have a fundamental disagreement as an individual, an ethical problem with a hunt, why would you serve or be appointed to a board of commissioners whose job it is to manage the hunting in the state based on science? Because then you're just bringing emotions. You're just bringing emotions at that point.
The reason she's on that commission, or the reason I expect these type of people are on that commission, is so they can get rid of hunting in the first place. That's why they would join such a thing.
I agree.
It wouldn't even bother me if the commission was filled with non-hunters. If it was filled with non-hunters who took the advice of the biologists from the Department of Fish and Wildlife and the Fish and Wildlife's advice, if they took that as for how it was presented, I would be fine with that, because the department said, hey, there's nothing wrong with continuing this hunt. We're not concerned about the population. It's needed to take care of timber damage, human bear interaction. It helps with the ungulate, fawn and calving population. This is a positive thing. Any non-biased person would hear that information and be like, all right, I don't see why this hunt shouldn't continue.
Yep.
But it's that anti-hunting bias that is the underpinning of their votes. That is their core belief. That is definitely a problem.
Man, that's a wonderful point that I want to talk about that for a minute, because you're exactly right, man. If they just found somebody that's not necessarily a hunter, but they're not necessarily an anti-hunter, they're a pragmatic individual that will sit down and say, okay, I listened to the Humane Society of the United States viewpoint on this, and they don't like it. But you are a wildlife biologist in the field. What is your take on it? And they're absorbing this information. They can come to the end of this discussion and understand that the real benefits to the actual bear in the state of Washington is to have this hunting season in the spring. It's not detrimental. It's not bad for the bears. It's not bad for the ungulates. It's not bad for the wildlife and the landscape and environmental impacts. All these things that can go into it. None of that is bad. They could look at that and say, okay, let's continue on the spring bear hunt. In fact, let's maybe up the permits. Let's up the tag numbers, because I imagine, Douglas, and correct me if I'm wrong, I imagine it's not super easy to draw a spring bear tag in the state of Washington.
No, it depends on the unit. A lot of people put in and they don't get drawn for 5-10 years, maybe more. Mm-hmm. I was lucky enough. I was drawn twice, but I've got 5 or 6 points for the unit I usually apply for now. So
it is a point system?
Yeah. So every year you don't get drawn, you get a point that statistically adds a slight percentage chance better to be drawn.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that.
That makes sense. Yeah. That makes sense. So it's so interesting, man, because I'm still stuck on this. Your commissioners in the state, some of the other people on there that they have. I love going to a zoo and seeing all these animals and whatever, but somebody that was basically the vice president of the Woodland Park Zoo, which I've been to that zoo. Zoologists are generally not hunters, right? And just I'm just questioning after reading this, like it was a shock to the system reading about the actual members of your board of commissioners that are serving in this capacity.
It's nauseating.
Dude, they don't have any business being there.
No, many of them do not. But so there's a silver lining to this whole situation, and that is something I don't equate it to Pearl Harbor, but it kind of reminds me of it. Since Pearl Harbor is tomorrow, in that they have definitely woke up a lot of people, a lot of hunters through this vote. Because we weren't expecting, it wasn't a vote in the first place if the hunt should continue or not. Ethics were not part of the write-up. The only write-up from the state, from the Department of Fish and Wildlife was, hey, we might take 4 permits from this obscure bear management unit on the coast, drop it down from 10 to 6, and we're going to change some wording in the rules in regards to how you're supposed to check the bear hide, the tooth, the skull in with the department. That's it. Mm-hmm. So put in your comments. We expect the spring bear hunt to continue. Put in your online comments, and so off and running. And so you read that and you're like, all right, this is nothing major. This is just, 4 tags and some wording, good to go. The department even said that they expected the spring hunt to continue as it has for years. And so when it got axed, that blindsided and pretty much sucker punched a lot of hunters, and we're like, wait, what? This wasn't even a topic. How does this even happen?
Yeah.
And so through that, it's pissed off a lot of people, and it's caused us to focus our attention on this commission and what they're up to next. Because there's other stuff coming right down the road in regards to elk hunting in the Blues and cougar management down there.
Well, the spotlight needs to be on them right now. Like, we need to hold them accountable, man. It needs to be, in my opinion, this thing cannot get dropped. We can't be pissed for a few weeks and send some letters and then call it a day and go on.
No, absolutely.
You know, we need to create a freaking ruckus with your board of commissioners in the state of Washington. This needs to be going on all winter long. Like, they need to know that this was a mistake and it will not be tolerated, and that they are being watched and monitored, and we need thousands and thousands of hunters to chime in with their voice, and they don't need to be from Washington to do so.
No, and I would agree with that. Like, I'm not letting this go.
Yeah, this is I won't either, man. I won't either.
That I'm going to be dealing with. You know, if it's by myself, it'll be by myself, but I don't think it will be. I think there's a lot of people who are not happy about this and who are going to be vocal, and that's what we need. Mm-hmm. You're right. We can't let this go for like a week or two and then be like, oh, okay. We have to be consistent with our pressure. And I know it's getting felt. I know that they're feeling the squeeze from people.
How do you know that? Like, what's going on where you feel like they know that the pressure is on now?
Well, I know that they're getting a lot of emails and phone calls from people who I've talked to. I was involved in the public comment on this past week in regards to the spring bear hunt, that 45 people signed up to speak. 111 ended up trying to chime in, but they only had, enough time for an hour and a half of comment. I was actually called out on the Zoom meeting with the department personally by the commission. So I know that I'm getting under their skin, and I'm proud of that. I'm going to
send you a t-shirt for that, man. Let me ask you this. Is the situation in Washington as such? So I live in North Idaho. I do a lot of work for my day job in the state of Washington. So I know there's some funky shit going on with like the COVID laws. Is that why they're not having in-person meetings?
Yeah, it's a COVID thing.
Because that's a very nice little protection for them. Because if we can organize an in-person Fish and Game Commission meeting and there were, 1,000 hunters that showed up, that would make an impact. But they're not doing that at all, huh?
No, and
even if you get the shot or whatever.
And part of the problem with that, during the open comment period for the amended law for spring bear with the drop of the permits and the changing of wording, there was an online comment period, and then they extended that, which I found odd, because I don't think that normally happens.
Not usually, no.
Not usually. And then after that, they did a public comment period where it was flooded with anti-hunting Zoom meetings, Zoom comments, right? From across the nation. And during that comment period, it was 90 to 10%. So it was like 90% anti-hunting, 10% pro-hunting. And that happened on the second Friday of our modern deer firearm season.
When everybody's in the field.
Everyone's in the field.
Yep.
Nobody was expecting it to be an issue about ethics or any of that effect. And so everyone just left their comments, and then it was like, oh, this is no big deal. I'm going to go hunting. Now, I don't know if that was coincidence or on purpose, but it smells south of cheese, in my opinion.
Well, Doug, what's your gut feeling tell you? Like, for me, my gut feeling says that was not by accident, that they did that when the hunting season was just opening up.
I emailed them about that, and they said, hey, those meetings happen on Fridays or Saturdays. And I said, well, okay. Well, when I emailed them, I said, look, you had 365 days to pick a day for this public comment, and you picked that day. Mm-hmm. And they said, no, it happens on Fridays or Saturdays. I'm like, okay, good. Well, you had 105 days, and you pick, the busiest hunting time of the year to do that. It just doesn't sit right.
That's no coincidence, man.
That smells funny.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah.
Let me ask you this, Doug. Do you feel like when the public comment period was going on, Did hunters in Washington come through? Did they pull through and they actually made comments and they were just ignored? Or do you feel like there was a lack of participation in that?
No, I think the online comments were ignored, and I think they paid attention to the cat ladies on the Zoom meeting.
Do you listen to my show or something? Like, how do you know we make fun of cat ladies all the time? Those are the ones that donate money all the time to Humane Society of the United States.
Right. So the online comments were like 70% pro spring bear, expand it, keep it, blah, 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 30% against. And I think a lot of that 30%, I don't know for sure, but I'm willing to bet a lot of that 30% came when they extended the online comment period. Because I'm willing to bet some people in the department or on the commission or something to that effect went back and said, hey, look, we need some anti-bear hunting comments. Let's fill that in. And we're also having a meeting on, Friday the 22nd when everyone's out hunting. So make sure and sign up. So my opinion, that's kind of what happened.
I'm going to, it's funny as we're talking that the dude I told you referred me to you, Mike Hers. He's texting me. He's like, here's some information you could use when you're talking to Doug. I'm like, dude, I'm already talking to him. I can't read through that.
Well, and like also, I read through some of the comments, and a lot of the comments, not all of them, but there was a lot of duplicates. So, Nancy from New Jersey, I hate bear hunting. And then it was, I also hate bear hunting, Nancy from New Jersey. Like, it was like, they would duplicate their comments to make it look greater than what it was.
Interestingly, a couple years ago, I would have thought that some kind of concerted effort to like silence one side and just only cater to the other side and almost kind of scratching at the surface of the iceberg that is conspiracy theorist kind of territory and all that kind of stuff. I didn't buy into a lot of it, and like I am totally on the opposite side. I do not trust these people, man. I do think that they purposely had that going while deer season was opening up. I do think that they purposely extended comment periods so that they can get more input from the 30% is a lot better than 10% from the anti-hunters. And I believe that they put the information out there. If you get on like Facebook and you want to run like an ad or something, and you can specify, like you could follow, you could type in there people that follow a bunch of groups like the Humane Society of the United States or Center for Biological Diversity and all these things. And you could target those people to get them to engage in things that they wouldn't normally engage in just because they follow some certain page. And I've recommended this for a while, but any hunter out there, you should follow all these anti-hunting groups, and you should make your voice heard. If you are on Facebook, Facebook's already nasty, make it nastier. Follow those groups and comment and fight these people. Because that's what we've got. That we don't. Not everybody has a microphone and a podcast and a voice. What do we do? What do we do at this point? And so these are. I'm just coming up with ways. I'm trying to come up with ways. So like, and I guess that leads to this question, Douglas. What is Washington? What do Washington hunters do now? I know there's a petition out there. I signed it, and I think it was up to like 8,000 signatures last time I checked.
It's over 17,000 right now.
Okay, so we're bumping on 20,000's door, guys. We need to get that to like 100,000. And go ahead.
So I don't expect the petition to change anything legislatively, but I think it's a good show of support. Mm-hmm. And it's something I can go back to and showcase to the commissioners. Be like, look, you are talking about public support. Well, here's 20,000 signatures that say you guys should be reinstating spring bear hunting. So, we do need everybody to sign that petition. The other thing is that, and I will send you some emails. People can email the commissioners. They can email this vice chair of natural resources who is in charge of not appointing, but confirming the leftover commissioners who need confirmed.
Is that Larry Carpenter guy?
No, he is a commissioner. I have it in my phone. I can look it up.
No big deal. You just send that over to me, man, and let me know what I can do to help with that. But I want to talk about what you were just talking about with showing support and putting the pressure on, and how I want to paint this picture, I guess, in a way, and I'd love to get your reaction to this, but when we're talking along those lines, this is an important point, and I've had episodes on this exact topic, and we're going to have more episodes on this exact topic, but when an anti-hunting organization gets a goal or a some kind of initiative that one group in, say, Seattle, Washington is in support of, what do? Well, what they do is they send it to all the other anti-hunting folks in San Francisco and Dallas, Texas, and Denver, Colorado, and Portland, Oregon, and New York City. All these places they send. So the point is they're able to gather thousands and thousands and thousands of signatures and support each other in a way that hunters lack. We don't do that. We all tend to focus on, well, I'm a Texas whitetail hunter, and so spring bear in Washington has nothing to do with me, and blah blah blah, or I'm a Colorado elk hunter, and that's all I care about. Where this is what happened in New Mexico when the New Mexico folks, they banned the trapping in New Mexico because people like, in Washington, for example, weren't paying attention to our friends in New Mexico for the trapping rights that were going on, and the houndsmen in California or the houndsmen in Washington, the Montana houndsmen weren't paying attention because it's a different state. We can't view it like this anymore. We have to get on board with each other.
Absolutely. Nationwide, worldwide.
Yeah.
Worldwide. Support African hunts. Our friends in Canada, they got all sorts of issues going on.
Oh my goodness, Canada! I could do a whole podcast series just on Canada.
You can go back and look at that statement by the Humane Society or by Lorna Smith, the commissioner, and dissect that for almost any animal.
Mm-hmm.
For example, the animal was lethargic. So if you have a special draw tag to hunt mule deer during the rut, you think that mule deer is an easier target because he's glassed over looking for the ladies? He's an absolutely easier target than what he would be during pre-rut, right?
Yeah, great point, man.
So they can use that statement, that argument, like, oh, well, this deer's in rut. You can't hunt them in rut. They're glassed over. They're distracted. They're an easier target because they are.
That's an excellent point. Go ahead.
So it's going to affect deer hunting. It's going to affect elk hunting, and it's just going to chip away. Their goal is to chip away hunting down to nothing.
And I really want people to understand this, because what you're talking about is using some irrelevant point to make a relevant point for people that don't know anything relevant about hunting to donate money to them, right? And sign petitions and sign all these things that make it sound like the anti-hunting movement has this overwhelmingly large populace that's in support of it, which is not the case. So to simplify that, what you're talking about, the bears are lethargic in the spring. Okay. Mule deer are more susceptible to a hunter during the rut, though, in my opinion, the first couple of weeks in November. Same with whitetail, little different time, or even elk hunters. We talk about elk hunting on the Western Huntsman all the time, you guys. This is what we talk about. Don't tell me that elk are not more susceptible. Like, can you imagine? This is a side note. Can you imagine how deadly I would be if I could hunt elk with a rifle in September and call them?
Oh, right.
You know what I mean? And
absolutely.
So that argument could be made anywhere and at any time. And so that's what I want to focus on for just a sec. So take that argument and translate that into the propaganda machine that is the anti-hunting movement. We can't fight that in a tweet. And I've said this a million times. They could say, in one tweet, a person can say, a bear is easier to kill in the spring because it's lethargic. It shouldn't be allowed, right? How do you respond to that in a tweet? You can't. You can't. You can't respond. This is a very large discussion that they're very good at taking a simplified argument to and catering to the people that don't know shit. And these people that don't know shit pull out their wallet and donate a bunch of money to them. That is the challenge that we're up against. because
Now,
that's, oh, go ahead.
that's a fact. No, that's a fact. And if you're not a hunter, if you're a fisherman,
Yeah.
hey, you ever go out to the sound or to the ocean or wherever and use a fish finder to a lake?
Yeah.
They can say, hey, that's unethical. That's unethical.
Against fair
chase,
chase.
and
Fair
that should be
chase.
banned. So I'm telling you, it's coming. And I know for a fact the commission is working on other stuff right now that I can't disclose because of a Freedom of Information Act, but it's coming down the pipe for deer. It's coming down the pipe for elk. It's coming down the pipe for cougar. So people had just better start waking up.
Okay. Yeah, I totally agree. I think that the biggest thing that I want people to get out of this episode and a lot of the episodes that we do and we talk about on the Western Huntsman here is we have to understand the mountain that is in front of us that we have to climb. This is not going to be an easy thing, but I'm telling you right now, when an anti-hunting organization in Seattle, a regional office of HSUS or something like that, whatever it is, when they get an idea for an initiative for a ballot or a ballot initiative or a legislative action that they can have some kind of influence over, they get help from people that live miles and miles from Seattle, Washington. And I'm just trying to paint a picture here. And I don't want to sound like a broken record, but they do. They're getting help from somebody in all 50 states. Meanwhile, what are hunters doing? We're ripping each other apart over how big somebody's buck was, or what kind of weapon or caliber they're shooting, or what pack they're running this year, or the type of boots they picked, or if their camo was from Walmart versus Sitka. And this is the kind of shit that we're getting all moonshined over because we're not paying attention. We have to help our hunters in Washington. We have to. It is not acceptable in my mind to allow this to slip into next year and just hope that maybe spring bear comes back for Washington. No, that is not my goal. My goal, as tall of a mountain as it is to climb, is to get this decision reversed before spring 2022. We need to create a big enough ruckus, and people are going to tell me, "Oh, that's not possible. Oh, it's not doable, Jim." Now, they've already made the decision, and in fact, the commission has said they're not going to address it again until next year. Bullshit. We can force them to address it now. Am I wrong?
Well, I plan on making a big enough stink to where that's my goal too. My goal is to get it hopefully recalled, revoted, and the Commissioner Smith off of the board, off of the commission. Absolutely. I tell people it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, so don't get burned out in a week or two and then just go about your business. Keep the pressure on it. Even if you can do just a couple of emails a week, an email a week, a phone call a week, whatever it is, it's going to add up and it's going to get to be an annoyance and they're going to have to address it.
Yeah. They're going to have to. We can create a big enough absolute nightmare for them that they'll have to address it. In fact, I've been talking to a couple of other guys. My buddy Joel Schwecker, who's been on the show before, he's over there. He's a lot further south. He's south of Olympia. I think, actually, now I might be confusing him with Joel Turner, and we got the elk singer over there. I've got a lot of great people in the state of Washington. And frankly, the state of Washington is one of our bigger listener bases for this show. But how it relates to this, that's irrelevant. I don't care if I have 2 listeners in the state of Washington. The point is this anti-hunting crap from this Lorna Smith and the rest of the commission is a cancer, and it's going to spread and it's going to grow. And so I've been talking to a few other people, Douglas. Maybe we can work something out here. But I want to do another episode where it's kind of a panel of Washingtonians, and we come on and we discuss some of the options that we have and some of the ideas that we've come up with to help create the ruckus that we're talking about, because that's what needs to happen. We need to be like that toddler in Walmart that throws such a big fit that they almost have to remove her from the store, right?
I hear you.
That's what we need to do. We have to throw a fit. We have to torment these commissioners into a point where they feel like they don't have any other choice but to bring this back to the table to discuss it. I'm getting so excited my hands are knocking into my microphone stand here.
A lot of my energy in this past couple of weeks has definitely been focused on that, and it will continue to do so. Like, I got the holidays coming up, like everybody does, but this is something that is not going on my back burner. It's just put on simmer on the front. I'm not going to quit on this topic.
So, in your opinion, Douglas, like what do we need to do? Do you have in your mind, like in a perfect world, if you could push a button that would set us on a course of action, what would that course of action look like to you?
I would encourage people to sign that petition so we can have a show of force.
Mm-hmm.
I would encourage people to email the yes and no votes and the Department of Fish and Wildlife in regards to this vote. I would encourage them to contact the legislature involved in the commission appointments.
And you have that information. You have like which legislators to contact, kind of thing.
I do have the vice chair who's heavily involved in that, and I will pass that along to you.
Okay. So, guys, one thing real quick. What I'm going to do is if you're on my Instagram, if you're following at the Western Huntsman on Instagram, which you should be if you're listening to this, right? Right, Douglas, you agree
Absolutely.
with that, right?
Yeah.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to add, if you go to my Instagram page and there's that link that they give you on your page, link in bio kind of thing. And if you hit that, that's my link tree. So that'll take you to all sorts of different stuff. You can go to the website, you can go to like Apple Podcasts, you can go to our YouTube channel, you can go to all these different things. I'm going to add that petition to that link tree. And maybe if you have a page, Douglas, somewhere that you know about where there is like all the information of the people we can email, I would add that too. But the link tree will have a bunch. Oh, go ahead.
So I have the link on my Instagram bio for the petition, and a couple of stories in, or a couple of posts in, there's definitely information on who to contact. But I will forward that stuff to you as well. And the other thing I would say too is, like, if you're not already involved with, say, the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation or the Western Bear Foundation or Blood Origins or Sporting Alliance, pick a group that you want to support monetarily. It doesn't have to be a ton of money.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But these things cost money to fight. That's the bottom line. I don't have that type of money, but these other organizations combined with memberships can help us.
Mm-hmm. So
I would just ask that you support one of those organizations, something that fits your liking, like Ducks Unlimited, if you're a duck hunter, Mule Deer Foundation, any of that stuff.
There's ones that are going to be very much basically, and how I've explained this in the past is when you're talking about donating money and becoming members of these organizations, you're going to have two different types. You're going to have conservation groups, and then you're going to have groups that fight against the anti-hunting organizations. Okay, and you have to be really careful with what you're wanting to spend, what is important to you. Like the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation is great for getting public land access and getting more elk out there on the landscape, but they cannot lobby against anti-hunting organizations, right? So that you have to follow where that goes and understand how to prioritize that. So in like for me, I'm a member of all sorts of groups, Mule Deer Foundation, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, F4WM, all these groups. But the ones that I pay a little bit more attention to are going to be something like your Sportsman's Alliance.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned Blood Origins. Guys, it's super cheap. What I did is I set up this thing with Blood Origins because these guys, you got to. If you're not familiar with Blood Origins, guys, you got to check it out. They're actually doing the fight. They're doing what it takes. It's a great organization. I set it up so every month they take out $3 out of my account. If $3 is a problem for you, you need to change your life. Like,
Right.
like what kind of meth are you cooking, man? Like come on, $3 a month.
And I did the same thing with blood ordinance. I set it up for the 3 something.
Yeah.
Because it's nothing. It's not even a cup of coffee locally.
No,
so
not even in Idaho. Well, you can go into a Conoco and get some tar that they call coffee for like $1.
Yeah.
But if you're getting any kind of quality coffee, even in Idaho, that doesn't cover it. So guys, that's what we need from you. And the other things that we need that Douglas and I, maybe we touched on it a little bit, but we need the unification of hunters. Like we need this. We need to stop bitching at each other. Quit worrying about what rifle somebody's using and how whatever method of take that somebody has, that's their personal preference. Remember that this is the land of the free and people get to make their own personal decisions. So screw it if you disagree with it. Do it your own way. Don't let somebody pick on you and don't pick on other people. Mind your business and mind your manners. That's what we need to do, because remember what we were talking about. These anti-hunting organizations, they are in cahoots with all the other organizations regionally. So this group in Seattle is getting help from the group in Tallahassee, is getting help from Atlanta, Georgia, and San Francisco. We don't have that. We don't have that on that kind of scale. We have to get on that scale if we want a prayer and a chance when it comes to the future of hunting. We can't let this happen ever again.
And if you don't think that the wolves aren't in the radar for the Humane Society in the United States in Idaho, you got another thing coming.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because that's a priority for those wolves.
Oh, I'm sure. Isn't it funny how it's always the predator species that have like this weird...
That's how they like to get their foot in the door.
Yeah, what is it? Is it because like as kids we had teddy bears, so bears are a problem, and wolves were like Disney propagates the nature of wolves. I don't know what it is. What do you think it is?
It's low hanging fruit. You know, it's like you say.
Yeah.
Everyone had a teddy bear. Everyone liked Winnie the Pooh. Everyone's, as an adult, if you're not a hunter, you're like, oh, cute cuddly bears, and who'd want to shoot a cub? Those evil hunters. Like, hunters don't want to shoot a cub. That's the last thing you want to do is waste your tag on a cub. Give me a break.
Dang, that's not a lot of meat off of that cub.
So it's just an easy way to get your foot in the door, and then the trouble starts. So
I liked your post the other day that you made where it had this picture of Winnie the Pooh eating the honey out of the jar.
Oh,
and you're like the true lethargic bear or something like that.
Because I was doing a dig at the commissioner about that because of the lethargic starving bear. Yeah,
we need more of that. We need more of that. So I want you to know, Douglas, I got your back. I got your back, brother. Like
I appreciate it.
I'm here. I don't know what I can do, but all I know is I'm willing to do it. And I'm working on ideas to help our friends in Washington because you guys have been lacking a voice on the public arena when it comes to hunting, and frankly, a lot of things in the state of Washington. You guys, the whole state of Washington is run by this like minority fanatical group that comes out of when you look at it population wise, and even like geographically wise, it's a small portion of the state making these big decisions for the rest of the state.
This is how annoying this state is. I didn't mean to interrupt, by the way.
Go ahead. No, you're good.
I took my son to go get his senior pictures taken today at a train station, and to walk into the train station, you had to have a mask on. So I put my mask on because I don't want to hear it, but I have it below my nose.
Mm-hmm.
And the guard says, hey, you got to have the mask above your nose the whole time. And of course, I swear under my breath and put it on there for the 30 seconds I'm in the room. And then I go to leave. But in reality, if I would have went in there and shot up heroin on the steps, nobody would have batted an eye because it's completely legal to sit there and shoot heroin up.
What?
It's
you can't.
Ridiculous. You can carry 3 ounces of heroin on you because that's personal use. They don't. Yeah, it is mind blowing. The state is completely backwards. I love the state. Man. I was born and raised here, but it's incredible.
That sucks because Washington is a kick-ass state. Like just the habitats and the crazy change in landscape. The diverse landscape, I should say. And I don't know if you know this, but they've reintroduced pronghorn to Washington, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
I saw some a few weeks back, just coming out of Ritzville just a little bit west of Ritzville by probably 20 miles or so, like 3 pronghorn running across this agricultural area. This I think it was alfalfa or something they were growing out there. But anyway, it was cool. That's the first time I've seen pronghorn in the state of Washington.
That is sweet. I like that.
Pretty sweet.
Oh.
I remember when they reintroduced the pronghorn over there, and it was a big deal. And this has been several years. Well, when I say several years, I don't know. I want to say it was like 2010 or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, I'd say that's about right.
Somewhere around there. Don't quote me on it, but anyway, it was cool. So here I am, 2021, cruising down the freeway, coming out of Ritzville, Washington, and there, lo and behold, some pronghorn running across. So you guys have the landscape, you have the habitat is there. There's a lot of game in Washington. It's a great place geographically and just the natural landscapes that make up this land. We've got to do something to head off at the pass this ludicrous, fanatical, environmentalist, extremist left-wing bizarreness that comes out of that Seattle area that seems to control the whole state. It's fucking retarded.
That's one way to put it. Yeah, you're right.
Sorry, man. I get excited.
All right.
I just feel bad. I feel bad. So anyways, let's wrap this up, man. I appreciate you coming on the show and talking about this. Hopefully it is helping to shed some light. Clearly you're fired up about it. I'm fired up about it. We're going to do some things, and would you come back on and for that panel, the bear hunting panel for Washington?
And be
one of the members? Okay, there's going to be like 4 of us. And so I'd love to get you on. I'm hoping to get my buddy Joel Swecker on, and a couple other people. If you know any biologists that can come on for it or anything like that, let me know. But let's start making some progress, man. If you send me that actually, I've got your petition right here in your Instagram link. Guys, it's going to be in my Instagram feed, or I'm sorry, not in the feed, in the link on the bio. So if you go to that, it's going to say Washington Bear petition. Okay, go to the Instagram and click on the link in my bio, and it's going to take you right there. Or you can go right to Douglas's Instagram because you have it right there already in your bio, right?
Yeah, it's right below my picture, name, whatever.
Yeah. Change.org, Janesley, bring back.
And don't, you don't have to support change.org monetarily or anything like that. I would just ask that you just sign it, and you might get 1 or 2 emails about it, but they don't really flood you, so don't worry about that too.
Yeah, just put your email in there. They do send you a couple of follow-up emails like, hey, so-and-so still needs your support. Do you want to donate money? Just ignore that stuff. Just sign the petition, but it does require that you put your email address in there, but you won't get spammed to death after that. So don't be shy about it, guys. We can't be shy about this stuff. Sign the petition. That will go a long way as we start to come up with strategic planning and other things to get this thing reversed. So anything else you want to add there, buddy?
Not really. Just thanks for everyone's support, and thanks for listening to the podcast, and be vocal and keep an eye on your local politics. But, just like we've already hounded, just support each other. If you can take the time to complain on Facebook or a hunting forum about how things are, you should be able to take the time to email a commissioner or your local legislature, whatever needs to be to ensure your hunting rights are maintained for yourself and your kids and your grandkids.
Yep. Couldn't agree more, brother. We got to make it easy. Let's figure out how to do this. So, okay. All right, buddy. Guys, Douglas Boze. Check him out on Instagram at Douglas Boze. That's what it is, right? Douglas Boze.
Boze and Bears.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I totally messed it up. At Boze and Bears.
Don't worry.
So Boze is Boze and Bears. Guys, it'll be in the show links. So just check that out. Douglas has some books available. I would encourage you to jump on Amazon and check out The Ultimate Guide to Black Bear Hunting. For a guy like me, I need all the help I can get, so I'm really excited about that book. Douglas, thanks again for coming on, brother.
Not a problem, man. Thanks for having me.
We'll talk soon. Thank you.
All right. You bet.
You made it all the way to the end.
thank you so much for tuning into the show. We sure appreciate your support. This is Jim Huntsman signing off and reminding you to check us out at Instagram at The Western Huntsman and on Facebook at The Western Huntsman. And you can also check out the website at thewesternhuntsman.com. Thanks again. We'll see you guys next time. Stay Western, and I'll see you on the mountain.